Thank you for stopping by. I today want to bring us up to speed concerning the matter of Mohbad, the young Nigerian superstar who was cut short in his prime in circumstances that are still very dicey. We asked that the police bring us up to speed with their investigation because that was a promise made to Nigerians and it looks like they are living up to that promise. But in today's video, I would like us to look at some of the issues I feel are not too clear. First, we're going to see the account of the Prime Boy who happened to be Mohbad's friend, Ibrahim, popularly known as Prime Boy, who has been fingered to be a major suspect. Then we look at the police account, and then we look at where there are disparities. The police told us that 26 persons were brought in for this investigation, and later were narrowed to 5 people who have been termed major suspects. I'm going to tell you their involvement and what I think about it. But before we go ahead, I would like to bring you up to speed with some of the things you need to know about this investigation. First, that police account is not the last of that investigation. They are supposed to turn it into the courts. Secondly, there is an autopsy result that is expected to be out soon. The timeline for that test was said to be 4 weeks, and we are close to it. Thirdly, there's an inquest, a coroner inquest into the whole matter by the government. And you know, a coroner inquest is supposed to be a more thorough investigation into the whole situation, not just how the court looks at it from the point of evidences and what is turned in or what people are linked to. The inquest is supposed to be a much more thorough investigation, shifting away from just available evidences and all that. There is also the 20-day window the police gave for concluding their investigation on the other 2 major suspects, Sam Larry and Naira Marley, who's supposed to be Mohbad's record label manager or leader. So all these are coming together to bring us to the end of that investigation. I would not also fail to remind you that the police had said they are also investigating the NDLA, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, because the victim in this case had opined that he was tortured, fed with an unknown substance in their custody. But the NDLEA came in to say that they never arrested Mohbad, and that opened yet another issue altogether because it was in public view, the videos were there. Okay, let's not go there until I get to that. But the point I'm making is that the NDLEA is also being investigated, and time is needed to clear all this before we make some kind of conclusions. When this whole happening started, Sam Larry was in the center of the whole thing. Remember, the 5 major suspects are Prime Boy, Mohbad's friend, Sam Larry, Naira Marley, the nurse that injected Mohbad, and another friend of Mohbad that brought in the nurse. Their names were all mentioned in that police account. Now you discover that issues moved from Sam Larry to Prime Boy, and now it's somehow coming back to the nurse. But if you ask me, I'm going to say that Prime Boy's reaction looked more like someone who is trying to retaliate. Like he's so angry that Mohbad's wife is trying to implicate him, and then he's all out to give it back to her. The question is, if Mohbad was your bosom friend, you guys grew up together, your mother fed him according to your own account, and you were that close like brothers, how easy is it for you to wait for the police to call you when that person died? And then how easy is it also for you to begin to make issues with his wife? You see how human beings change when they sense danger. And then again, in his account, he implied 3 things. Number one, he implied it was a misunderstanding between Mohbad and his wife. Two, he implied the whole thing happened before Mohbad's performance, before he climbed the stage. Three, he also implied that the military resolved the case. That's the security personnel that were hired for that event resolved the case. If I also take you back to the account of the organizers of the event, it corroborated this. Like, there was no fight. They said there were army personnel all over the place and there was no fight. Everybody left after the event. So even when he implied he had a misunderstanding with his friend, he didn't paint it as something that caused an injury. He didn't say there was a fight between the both of them that caused an injury. His account is looking totally different from what the police is saying.
Because military were there, Onyabo was there, police was there. So how will I touch him? Because they don't know me, they know you, they would disgrace me instantly. So I was just like smiling. So I was pretending that nothing happened to even them, but Mohbad was for Oju.
At the end of the show, Mohbad and Ibrahim were engaged in a violent fight, during which Mohbad was injured. The management of the injury subsequently resulted in his death.
On the second suspect, which everybody has concluded killed Mohbad, which is the nurse. On the nurse, I would like to say that the police went a little bit overboard by also passing judgment. Truly, they had recognized the medicines they saw in the house of Mohbad, which they say was brought in by the nurse. They had also recounted that the nurse gave him those injections and agreed that it started the chains of reactions in his body leading to his death. That sounds to me like something coercive, like she's been coerced into accepting that, because nobody will in this kind of investigation implicate himself by saying that immediately I gave him the injections, he started reacting. Otherwise, if the police is telling us that she agreed that it was the injections that spiked the series of reactions that took his life, I think they would have gotten that confession coercively or by threats or a kind of a torture. That's by the way. And then the police went ahead to pass a kind of judgment as to the medications being the real cause of the death. Their duty was not to get to that point. Their duty was to tell Nigerians what injections the nurse gave and what happened, and what happened after the injections, the reactions they saw, and not to conclude that it was what killed him. Because that kind of situation exposes the nurse the more, and even her family, even while the investigation has not been concluded. So there is this very thin line between the investigator and drawing conclusions. Is something everybody should watch out for, because sometimes you don't know when you give up yourself and make certain conclusions. If we also look at the mirror image of this case, the nurse might not be totally charged with murder. She might with manslaughter, because though not licensed to give serious treatment, she may not have intentionally killed the deceased. How these nurses operate is that they attach themselves to experienced nurses and doctors and learn the craft like where they learn a trade. So they know the injections that are given for a particular ailment, but they don't know that it's not just a needle passing through the hole like one coat fits all treatment, because medically they're going to check a lot of things against some other things before they conclude that the same medication is good for a patient. On the other hand, even though Prime Boy's account has made it look like there was no serious danger, or at least something that can lead to someone's death, as at the time he left the venue. The police had said otherwise. The account said Mohbad fought with his friend and in the process got a deep cut that got infected due to lack of proper attention, and then had got need to move to the hospital, but Mohbad refused to go to the hospital. And then there are insinuations as to why he refused to go to the hospital. Some persons from different quarters have argued that musicians use a lot of drugs and they don't want to be in that position where some tests will be run on them before major treatments is given to them, as such treatments or tests will expose their drug status. There might be a point in that, but I still do not know the level of drugs that Mohbad took as at the time of this incident. And the injections or the medications that has been given by the auxiliary nurse ordinarily are not supposed to be harmful ordinarily, but notes that any drug can be harmful depending on reactivity. Any drug can be harmful depending on reactivity, the things they interface with in the body or elsewhere. So that is why it is advisable not to take them for their face value and or administer them on yourself just because you feel someone else took them for certain ailment and it worked for them, then I should take it. There are so many things that will be checked against what is happening to the user of the medications. Everybody knows anti-tetanus injection. Everybody knows the other two as maybe painkillers and maybe relaxants and things like that. So I'm not a doctor and I cannot do that analysis, but on as a layman, everyone knows that we've been taught that it is not good to self-medicate. And it's been said that this nurse doesn't have the expertise to give the level of treatment she took up on the victim. All the same, let's not forget that there is an autopsy result that is being awaited. That autopsy result could tell us more about the state of the body as at the time of death. So that's why I said it is not okay for the police to conclude that Fisayo Ogedengbe, the nurse or the auxiliary nurse, is the prime suspect or has killed Mohbad, at least at this level. Still looking at Prime Boy's account for such a relationship that he has built with a friend. What could have caused a fight if we are to go by the police account? What could have caused a fight if we are also to go by his own account? What could have caused that level of fighting? Prime Boy said it was his family matter. The police said it was Prime Boy trying to contain him because he felt he would be exposed. These are two different ends. Okay, I had said earlier in one of my videos that the police is trained. They have experience with aligning issues, aligning matters, making them come together. And if you also listen to Prime Boy, you would know that he has also been guided by a lawyer to be consistent in his speeches or testimony or account. But if you watch the account he gave while in the car of the TVC presenter and the account he gave while his lawyer was standing with him, you will discover that he has been tutored or have rehearsed what he's going to say, and he's staying on it as not to be inconsequential or sound inconsequential. That is the way cases go. Now, other things that also drew my attention is that if the police says there was a serious fight between two friends that even caused one to bleed profusely, caused Mohbad to bleed profusely, and Prime Boy says, I had a fight with him because he didn't want me to be part of his family matter. And then he also says the wife was sitting in between us.
I was sitting here, his wife was sitting down at our middle.
How is it possible for the wife to be sitting in between them and they are having issues that is of family importance and he didn't hear or know? At what point did he feel that matter has degenerated to start fighting with his friend to the extent that his friend walked him out of the car?
He don't want to stay in the car with his wife because they were having one or two, but it was eating to me. But Mohbad was not happy that I was the one telling him, "Oh, Tito now, oh, there go she be by Lotima solve gbogbo matter ele." And that was what I was just telling him, and he was angry that I did not give him the chance, to pour his mind out at that moment. And I told him, "This is not where you do this. When you get home, then solve your family problem. This is a show."
For what he described in the beginning of that day, how cordial and chilling they were, how and what happened that their relationship degenerated to that extent of a fight, and yet he doesn't know the cause. And then the police also giving a different account. If we are to go by what the public have been insinuating of a crush between him, Prime Boy, and Mohbad's wife, I would say that I don't know how true it is, but in every rumor, there is always an element of truth. There may have been something that they are not telling us. It might not be exactly what the public is speculating, whether of unfaithfulness or whatever, but there is something that both all parties are keeping to themselves that they feel is not for public consumption. And maybe to the police, that also may not have made sense. And then one thing also about the police is that even if the lawyer guides you to make a statement, behind the lesson of the sweetness in your story, they can spot pretense, they can spot insincerity, they can also spot or suspect things. So for the police not to take it lightly with him, especially for the fact that he wasn't even there when he died, they would have envisaged, they would have seen something that they are still not telling us, because there are certain things that are intangible when there are cases that might not be laid hold on to tell the story, but those handling the matter would know that it's a factor. It would have caused a problem. And then there's another question he asked. He said that when he heard his friend had passed on, he picked up his phone and started asking, "Are you satisfied now?" Because he had seen that he has been in danger in previous times. So he feels, okay, now they are satisfied.
Immediately I went online and said, "Are you satisfied now?" Because he's always complaining about people chasing him, this, that, and I'm always seeing videos online, this, that. And I was not happy what I saw. So I said, okay.
That also brings up certain questions too, because was there a plan to remove him that the person is also trying to lace or cover up by trying to push it to another person? And then for somebody you are trying to protect, the person won't be so angry with you as to tell you to come down from his car and leave. And at that point, he also said that he moved straight to Cubana to tell him what has happened. And Cubana said, "Stay here, watch over him. Let me go and check what is happening. I'm Before he knew it, everybody left. The way he described the leaving can only happen in a situation where there was a problem, a fight, and everybody want to leave the scene of that fight.
The Cubana chief priest asked me, okay, stay here. Let me go and make findings of what is going on. Then I left school. I announced, he asked the security, watch over him, don't let him leave here. Then I said I won't. Then I stood. Then immediately, me checking out, let me where is Cubana chief priest. I'm waiting for him to come and give me feedback. Everywhere was empty, both the Prado, we bought like 15 Prados or 10 with the general boss, everyone, we came together and everywhere like dry immediately. So I was shocked. So I only called my director and go, I can't come out of this ghetto. You know all these omota that are there, I don't want them to wound me. Then he said I should hold on.
All these are just issues running in my head that I'm trying to reason with you. And then, thank God, the wife's case and the DNA test came back negative. So, like I said in one of my earliest videos, that I don't think that paternity would have caused the death of Mohbad. When I look at this whole issue, I just feel for two friends. These are friends that started growing up from childhood, were friends, being through each other, and in one day, two of them entered a trouble. One is gone, one is almost likely to be in a very, very dicey situation. That's if God has a different say. How come? Is it that the same thing that has been looking for the end of this boy will stop at nothing than getting to everybody that's mattered to him too? I don't know. Let's look at the third suspect, the one that is known as Spending, which is Mohbad's second friend, who, from what has been said, is the good Samaritan who wanted to save a friend but is caught in the crossfire. He called the so-called nurse. And then, you know, in Nigeria and even in Africa, there are a lot of people who use these auxiliary nurses, and probably he doesn't even know how qualified she is or the level of qualification she has. Everybody feels they're in uniforms, give immediate attention. You can call them now and they will come now. That is exactly why they are being patronized in a system where it is almost difficult to get medical attention on emergency basis. So that one, whether he acted of good intentions or out of a different plan, only God knows. But let's see how it unfolds for him in this investigation. And then for Naira Marley, Sam Larry, who are still in custody, I want to believe that apart from the evidences all over of bullying and assaults and the bickering between them and the deceased, there might be also a more serious reason they are being held. Why I say so is the NDLA account as reported by the police that they never invited Mohbad. I have a feeling that he would have gone beyond his powers. I mean, Naira Marley and Sam Larry. And then the police is seeing another crime or an arranged crime using some scrupulous members, using some inconsequential members of the NDLA, which is a bigger crime on its own. And that could also be the reason they are not letting him go. In the coming days, we will keep us up to speed as to the result of the autopsy, the coroner inquest, the NDLEA issue of being invited by NDLEA, and the findings of the medical body the police has put together, the police medical body, the government medical body, the Association of Midwives and Doctors, you know, a lot of groups brought together to also look at that issue critically. But for now, Mohbad is gone, and we're beginning to deal with it. Whatever happens, I wish the innocent is not being punished. On the issue of Sam Larry and Naira Marley, who were originally in the eye of the public as the major suspects and killers of Mohbad, they felt it was very necessary to keep them for this long because of public outcry and the incidences that have happened. Let me call it the remote causes of the death of this guy. And I don't think that if the police, from what they implied in their statements, how it was even these three major people that should be held, if they still go ahead to hold this other two, it means there is something they are also not telling the public. Let's hope that more will come to limelight. Thank you so much for watching. In case you've not checked out the full video of that police investigation or their own account and the account of Prime Boy, I'll put the link in the description below so you can look at the both of them critically. Ciao.